January 3rd, 2013. The gentleman from California, Mr. Peters, is recognized for 60 minutes as the designee of the Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the chance to hold this special order with some of my freshman colleagues. And I ask unanimous consent that members be given 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks.
Without objection.
Thank you. I heard some of the discussion from yesterday and even some tonight, and thought that it would be appropriate for some of the freshmen who just got here, don't have some of the perspective that has pervaded some of the discussion, haven't been here for a lot of the most bitter battles, maybe have a little bit more of a problem-solving attitude, to give our perspective on some of these things, and maybe to have a constructive discussion of the government shutdown and also the debt ceiling, which I think is a very, very serious thing to discuss as part of a normal or as part of a negotiation. The news today in San Diego will be about the cancellation of the Miramar air show that was to take place this weekend. This is a great tradition for our community, an important fundraiser for military families, and really a sad casualty of the current shutdown. But I'd like to start my comments by highlighting a more hidden and much more serious effect of the shutdown just by sharing a couple emails I received from constituents in the last 3 days. First, I'm an engineer that has supported the Navy and Marine Corps for 26 years and have always given 100% to ensure that our military has the best capabilities in the world. Most of the people I work with have gone above and beyond to give the Navy and USMC our very best, especially during the many years of wartime. Due to sequestration and previous furloughs, I've already lost $10,000 of income this year and completely depleted my family's savings account. Now I'm being furloughed again, and this follows 3 years of frozen pay. I'm worried for my wife and 2 young children because I cannot pay the bills if this shutdown continues. I do not blame one party or the other. I'm sure they both think they are doing the right thing, but I worry that they do not know the pain they are causing for the families of dedicated and hardworking civil servants. A second one. I'm writing to you today concerning our government shutdown. I am an active duty spouse of 15 years with 2 children. We recently moved to Coronado from Naples, Italy. I have made several sacrifices over the years to follow my husband's career. I've always felt that my husband's job as an officer in the United States Navy was worthy of my sacrifices. I have stood proud by his side. We have moved 11 times within our 15 years of service, and as always, we have budgeted our housing allowance, cost of living, and pay. And today, as I read all the negative comments on social media threads, I feel as though I have wasted 15 years of my life. I almost fell off the treadmill on the base gym this morning when it hit me. All of the holidays my husband has missed, the birthdays and the anniversaries spent alone, for what reason? For 535 of you to shut us down? Thank God I did not fall off the treadmill this morning, as now our medical staff is on furlough and the area is severely understaffed. Finally, I'm a proud American, and that's why I proudly work at the Naval Medical Center in San Diego. As a nurse practitioner with Department of Surgery, I've already endured 1 furlough. This resulted in a 20% pay reduction this summer, and I was grateful it ended earlier than planned. But now I'm furloughed with a 100% loss in pay. It has to stop. As a San Diego resident, I know you are aware that your mortgages are higher than most. I'm also a single mother of 2 wonderful girls. This makes the additional furlough that much harder to swallow. Please work with your fellow representatives to make this government shutdown end as soon as possible. It's hurting the average American much more than D.C. seems to understand. If our elected officials were forced to take a 20% pay reduction and have that followed by a 100% pay loss, I'm sure the budget would be fixed. I just want to continue to do my job and would appreciate being allowed to do just that. If this continues further, I'll be forced to seek other employment. My faith in our government is failing quickly. Again, please work together to end this situation. There's stories like that from all these federal workers, and more than 800,000 federal workers are out of work during the government shutdown. And it's not just the D.C. metro area that's affected, as you've heard. From Hawaii to Georgia, workers in regions all over the country rely heavily on the federal government, And San Diego is the seventh ranked city with high share of federal employees. We have 151,000 workers. 10.9% of our workforce is affected by this government shutdown. Obviously, the same is true in Colorado Springs, which is #1, Virginia Beach, Honolulu, the D.C. region, Ogden, Clearfield, Utah, El Paso, Augusta, Georgia, San Antonio, and Charleston. Every one of those places has thousands of stories just like the ones I've told. So it is important for us in D.C. To remember the effect that we're having in the real world. And that's often been the biggest surprise for me, is that when I leave my district and I've heard these stories and I come here and we hear that people are talking in these terms of blame and calling each other names and not really doing credit to this institution and far from solving the problems that have gotten us here. And I've heard a lot of people say, we don't want to shut the government down. Well, we don't have to. I've heard a lot of finger pointing about who caused it. But the fact is that today, the power to reopen this government rests solely within the House of Representatives. We know what we have to do. We don't have to wait for the Senate. We don't have to wait for the President. We can pass a continuing resolution, which is the instrument that funds the government, only for 6 weeks or 10 weeks, that the Senate has passed. We don't have to have any amendments or anything. We do that today. We can at least do it tomorrow. And all these people will be back to work, and we can end these stories of fear and pain that are affecting our families and the businesses that they work for. Now, there's been a lot of yelling about attaching conditions to the continuing resolution. We've been voting on these really literally for weeks now, and I'm not going to add my voice to those, but I'll just say that it seems that those have run their course. None of them has gotten anywhere. I myself supported some of these conditions. In fact, earlier this year, I voted to delay the individual mandate to match the business mandate. That wasn't something that was popular in my party. I voted for that. But in the context of this continuing resolution, I supported the repeal of the medical device tax. It happens also to be one of my major legislative priorities. I think that's a bad way to fund any part of the government. But that got some Democratic votes, but it didn't get any support in the Senate. Today we got an email from the majority leader who said that House Republicans believe it's critical we continue to engage and offer meaningful solutions for the American people, which is why he said, on a bipartisan basis, with a total of 57 different Democrats voting with us, we have passed bills to reopen the NIH, ensure that the National Guard and reservists are paid, fund veterans' benefits, reopen our national parks, allow the District of Columbia to expend their local funds. I voted for all these too. Most of my party didn't, but I thought we had one chance to provide these, to open these areas up, to make sure that they go back to work. It's not the best budgeting thing. I voted for them, but the point is they went nowhere. The Senate will not approve them, and if the Senate approved them, the President wouldn't sign them. So it's time to recognize that we have reached the end of this road, and this is not getting us anywhere. We know that these things won't sell. We know that they won't get support in the Senate, and it's time to move on to a basic continuing resolution without amendments. Now, I've heard people say, some of my colleagues on the other side say, well, we need to get something. And I just point out that if you look at the numbers, and we all talk extensively about the need in general to control spending and lower our debt, the Senate approved spending until November at the Republican level. President Obama's budget proposal was for $1.2 trillion. The Senate's budget was for $1.06 trillion, or about $0.2 trillion less. And the Senate approved a spending level at the continuing resolution at an annual rate of $986 billion. That's a cut of $72 billion from the Senate budget. That's a 7% less than the Senate had proposed, and $217 billion less than the President's proposed budget, 18%. So to say that you needed to get something, I think certainly that at this point the Republicans have won the war over discretionary spending. Now, that's not a war that people are going to give up on. But in the continuing resolution, which we're asking to vote on, to have a chance to vote on in the House, the Republicans' number was the number used. At this time, I'd like to yield to my colleague from the state of Washington, Derek Kilmer, serves with me on the Armed Services Committee and also on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee.